Welcome everyone to the thrilling conclusion of my How Far Can I Get in Stardew Valley series. Will there be trials, troubles and tribulations, or will it be a walk in the park on my way to perfection? Well, you'll just have to watch the whole video to find out. The goal for the next 300 days is very simple, to obtain perfection. The mods I'm using are the same as the 100 and 200 days, and again they don't add any gameplay, they're just quality of life improvements. These videos do take a lot of time and effort to make, so if you do enjoy, please like the video and make sure to subscribe to the channel. I promise you'll become 70% more cooler after you've subscribed. That is scientifically proven. Don't look that up, you just gotta trust me. And if you do feel so inclined, make sure to join our Discord server too. It's a lot of fun and everyone's super kind, so come and hang out. And let's just get into these 300 days then. I was back on the farm once again on day 201 and I spent the morning reacquainting myself with the farm since it had been a while, so I just did some chores. Also, I should clarify now that to help me keep a track of everything I needed to do to achieve perfection, I no joke had a notebook beside me the whole time, and I had a checklist in that notebook which does come in handy quite a lot. But anyway, I took a rabbit's foot across to the movie theatre car park and handed it to the truck driver where I received the special charm, which increases your daily luck. Not too bad to have when I go panning for that damn lucky ring. Trying to complete another secret note, I headed up to the bathhouse to fish out Abigail's necklace that she had lost. But of course, being winter, the water feature is frozen over. Looks like I'll have to come back in spring. Down on the beach, I dug up a snow yam, one of the last things I needed to ship in order to complete the shipping collection, and that night I finished off the day making some cooking recipes before heading to bed. Day 202 started out with paying Pierre and Sandy a visit to pick up some kale and rhubarb seeds that I hadn't grown yet, which I then planted on Ginger Island, since Ginger Island lets you plant any seeds during any season. I then stopped in to see Marlon and Gil at the Adventurers Guild to see if they were selling a slingshot, and look at that, they were. Hallelujah, because I was very worried at the end of the last 200 days that I couldn't get it. But why get a slingshot, you may ask? Well, there's a pesky golden walnut which can only be obtained from shooting it down from a tree, which is exactly what I did. Hooked on trying to get all the golden walnuts, I made some flute blocks and headed to the beach outside the Pirate's Cove. But I realized as I got there it had to be raining, so I guess I'll just come back another day. Over in the desert, I traded in my surplus of Omni Geodes for some artifact tropes before getting myself the stone Junimo behind the community center. I then spent the rest of the night stumped on trying to obtain the golden Lewis statue. Like this honestly took me an embarrassingly long time to figure out. But I got there in the end. It was day 203 and it was a Sunday. If you haven't seen my other videos, then I should preface that Sunday is my ancient fruit collecting day, which is exactly what I did. I then collected up all my wine from the quarry and replaced them with more ancient fruit to be ready in a week's time. And then I did the same in my keg shed back on the farm. Today was also Caroline's birthday, and so I handed her one of her favorites, a fish taco. Hey, I'm definitely not judging or anything. I'm not like that. I don't judge people like that, okay? Over on Ginger Island, it was pouring with rain, so I took the opportunity to play the mermaid song and I got my hands on 5 more walnuts. For the rest of the night, I sadly said goodbye to half of the tree farm. My tree farm had served me well, but it was time to get rid of it and make way for the golden clock area. That's right, I wanted my golden clock to have some prime real estate on my farm, and oh boy was it gonna get it. Day 204 I continued to work on my golden clock area, which I mapped out with some stone walkways to give myself a visual idea of where I was heading. I then headed over to Ginger Island as I realized I had 1 golden walnut left to get. I was literally at 129 out of 130 walnuts. But the bird for some reason wasn't giving me any clues, so I was on my own to find the last walnut. Unfortunately, I had no luck finding it, so I headed back to the valley that night where I potted around the farm until bedtime. Day 205 I started out doing some chores around the farm, and then I was back to Ginger Island, determined more than ever to find myself that last golden walnut. After calculations, thinking, ascending past the 3rd dimension, and a little help from the Stardew Valley wiki, I figured out the location of the last walnut. I now had all 130 walnuts and I ticked golden walnuts off the checklist. I then spent most of the day crafting things, as another part of perfection is to craft every item, which honestly kept me busy for the rest of the day. Day 206 I headed on over to Ginger Island to hand in the rest of my golden walnuts for key gems, and back on the farm I decided to ditch the diamonds and crystallariums idea and set them all up with jade stone instead. I wanted a lot of staircases. I then filled the area around the golden clock with statues and grass. I have a couple more statues to get, but for now it's taking a nice shape, I think. Up at Robin's, I settled the tomato debate between Robin and Demetrius with the only correct answer, it's a vegetable. Of course it's a vegetable. And then I surprised Sebastian with a frozen tear for his birthday before calling it a night and heading into bed. It was time to open my artifact troves on day 207, so off to Clint's I went. I did manage to get my hands on the bone flute, which ticked another artifact off the list. And then I headed on over to the movie theatre. I got there a bit early, so I waited around until 9. I wanted to play the crane game, but this stupid guy was in the way and he wouldn't let me play. So I thought I'd watch the movie in hopes that he would have moved on, but no, as I came out he was still standing there. Oh well, I'll just have to come back another day then. Down on the beach, I managed to dig up a dried starfish, another artifact I didn't have yet, and over at the dig site on the island, I found a couple more while clearing it out. That night, I rode Clip-Clop around the Cindersnap forest trying to find the last artifacts, but came up short, so I headed to bed. I started out day 208 mooching around the farm, completing some chores before heading over to the museum to donate those artifacts I had found yesterday, leaving me with only one to get, which was the elvish jewellery, which can only be found from artifact troves or artifact spots around the Cindersnap forest. So back out I went on Clip-Clop scouring the land for spots, but I found none today unfortunately. Over on Ginger Island my kale was ready to be harvested, so I collected them all up and took them home. I put one in the shipping bin to go towards my shipping collections, and before bed I made some more cooking recipes and I went on a gifting spree with diamonds in the saloon. Day 209 I went on a search for artifact spots in the Cindersnap forest before taking all of my geodes to Clint's. I got quite lucky and I managed to get a mudstone, which was one of the last 2 minerals I needed to collect, so off I went to the museum to donate it. Back on the farm I crafted myself a farm computer and put it down next to my Dynamo chest. That evening I collected up all of my ancient fruit wine from the quarry and keg shed. I also calculated that I was making about 1.2 million gold per weekend, which is quite a lot, and the golden clock requires 10 million gold to purchase from the wizard, but not to fear, as by my calculations I'd have 10 million gold by the end of spring of my 3rd year in the valley, so I was in good stead to have that ticked off soon. Day 210 was another ancient fruit harvest day, so I went around the greenhouse and island farm collecting up all of my ancient fruit. Oh, this is so satisfying when you have so many. And on this lovely winter's day it was our boy Harvey's birthday, but I wasn't good enough friends with him to enter his room, so I had to kill some time before he came out again. So back on the farm I grabbed my hoe and 5 iridium bars and headed to Clint's to upgrade my hoe for me. And then back at Harvey's, I waited patiently for him to emerge from his room to drop him off some truffle oil before calling it a night. It was day 211 and I was in Mr. Key's room picking up Key's Hungry Challenge quest, which tasked me with making it to level 100 in the Skull Caverns without eating or drinking anything. Sounds simple enough, right? But I put that quest aside for now and decided to spend some time handing out some gifts to the townsfolk. So with diamonds in hand, I spread some cheer, gifting them around. Over at Leia's house, I decided to become a personal hype man and told her to have an art show in town before handing out some more gifts. It was after this I remembered that about a week ago I was rudely stopped from playing the crane game at the movie theatre, so I went back to give that guy a piece of my mind. But he wasn't there, so I got myself a couple of cute Junimo plushies. Which I took back home and placed in the kids' room. That evening, the night market was back in town, so I headed on down to the beach. While I was there, I purchased myself a painting of clouds and saw some things I'm never going to be able to unsee. I went to bed that night and I dreamt about some very, very strange things. And about how awesome I am, of course. Day 212, my iridium hoe was done and ready, so I paid Clint a visit to pick it up. I then rode Clip-Clop around the Cindersnap forest once again, looking to see if I could find this elvish jewellery, but unfortunately today was not the day. But today was a great luck day, so you know what that means. That's right, we're hitting the Skull Caverns today. Hey, you remember how I picked up that quest where I can't eat or drink anything in the caverns? Yeah, so I kind of totally forgot about that. As you can see here, while I try to eat but quickly realized that I can't. So it was with caution that I continued going down and collecting materials as I went. But then, on floor 64, disaster struck. I got way too cocky and I died. And this is what I lost. My shard, 87 iridium ore, and a bunch of other stuff. It's safe to say I was crying, screaming, kicking, throwing up, and shook to the core. How could I be so careless? I retreated back home, tail between my legs, and I headed to bed. Day 213, I was hoping for something to improve my mood after yesterday's shocking events. So I headed down to the wizard and dropped him off a birthday gift. A selfless deed was sure to improve my mood. I then did some chores around the farm before riding Clip-Clop around the Cindersnap forest again in search of that last artifact, but it just wasn't meant to be. Luckily, in yesterday's incident, I hadn't lost my Omni Geodes, so I wandered over to Clint's to open them all as I only had one mineral left to get. But after opening up 29 geodes, I was, as they say, shut out of luck. I continued my selfless deeds by handing out a few more loved gifts to villagers with the least amount of hearts. I figured by focusing on the villagers at the bottom of the list, it'll make my life a lot easier as I go on. And I also dropped my watering can off to Clint's for an iridium upgrade. To finish the night, I paid a quick visit to the night market and bought myself another painting before sleep time. The morning of day 214, I was doing the equivalent of pacing and thinking in real life, which in Stardew Valley is warping between Ginger Island and the farm. And I was honestly just planning stuff out in my head and consulting the checklist. Over at Robin's, I bought myself a telephone. In all honesty, I've never bought the telephone, so this is a fun new territory for me. And I placed it down beside the kitchen and gave it a test run, just to make sure it works fine. For the rest of the day, I made some more crafting recipes, foraged around the desert, made a couple of cooking dishes, and then I headed to bed. And then overnight, I heard a strange noise. Day 215, I left the farmhouse in search of what made such a strange noise, and sure enough, I found the strange capsule in the middle of my farm. I'm sure it'll be fine if I leave this here, right? Anyway, I decided not to hang around it for too long just in case, and instead I visited the island farm to harvest my now ready rhubarb. I chucked one in the shipping bin for the shipping collection and stored the rest away in my crop chests. Clint had finished upgrading my watering can, so I picked that up before finishing a request from Gus by handing him a coconut. I was back to riding clip-clop around the Cindersnap forest in hopes of finding this last artifact, but no luck today, unfortunately. Feeling a bit bored, I headed over to the saloon to cure that boredom with some Junimo cart, which quickly turned to anger as I couldn't even make it past the first level. So I decided a better use of my time would be to hand out some gifts for the rest of the day. Day 216 started out with some chores before heading on over to Evelyn and George's place. While I was there, I helped Harvey deal with a grouchy George, and I gave Evelyn a present for her birthday. Back on the farm, I added some more crystallariums to my jade shed and started working on filling in this last square. I first chopped down the trees by the lake so it was a bit more visible, then I decided to turn it into a little sitting area. I added some pathways, seats, and some grass to a lovely campfire, and I think it looks quite cozy and nice. Of course, being a Saturday night, I paid a visit to the quarry to collect up all of my wine as well as the keg shed and ship them off before bed. Day 217 started out with an ancient fruit harvest across the greenhouse and island farm. Once I had all my fruit, I went along and shoved them all into kegs for that sweet, sweet wine. The travelling cart was also here today, and I was on the lookout for a rare seed as one of the last shipping collection items I needed was a sweet gemberry. And lucky for me, she was selling just what I needed. After looking around for artifact spots around the Cindersnap forest, I headed on over to Ginger Island. I found Harvey on the beach looking like an absolute snack.
You gonna make me act up. You gonna make me do something I'm gonna regret.
And then I planted my rare seed with some deluxe speed grow. To finish the day off, I took a bunch of jade to the desert trader and got myself a buttload of staircases. I was still yet to finish the hungry challenge from Mr. Key, and I had not a lot of time to do it in. So I scurried down the cavern using the staircases and reached level 100 in no time, giving me some more key gems for my efforts. I started day 218 by stopping into Mr. Key's walnut room and picking up the key kindness quest, which tasked me with giving out 50 loved gifts. Completing this quest was going to do wonders for my friendship, so I was glad to have picked it up. So what did I do for the rest of the day? I just handed out gifts, of course. I'm not kidding, I did this until bedtime. Oh, I did have a heart-to-heart with Shane on the lake too, so you know, that happened. Day 219, I was back to giving out gifts. In hindsight, I thought 50 gifts wasn't going to be that many, but trust me, it's a lot of gifts. And again, this took up my whole day. But by the end of it, I had given out 42 out of 50 gifts, which was pretty good going if you ask me. Day 220, I finished off handing out the last gifts I needed to complete Key's quest, and then got some more key gems in return. Back in the walnut room, I used my key gems to purchase a hopper crafting recipe, and I just needed 50 more gems to get the other 2 recipes. Back on the farm, I did some chores before scavenging the Cindersnap forest for that last artifact again, but it just wasn't meant to be. To finish the day off, I made some more cooking recipes before heading to bed. Day 221 was the Feast of the Winter Star, but before heading into town, I walked down to the beach to try and catch a tuna for a cooking recipe I hadn't made yet. But for the life of me, I just couldn't catch one, so I gave up and headed to the feast. My secret person this year was George, so I gave him a nice leek. And my person was Demetrius. Please be better than last year. Please be better than last year. Okay, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. That's way better than the one I got last year. It was Clint's birthday on day 222, so I took the minecart over to his house and handed him a birthday present. Then I rode Clip-Clop down to the pier to try and catch myself a tuna, which I managed to catch after a few casts. Back home, I used it to make a fish taco. But without further ado, it's time for everyone's favorite segment. It's panning with Poxio. You already know how this works. I'm looking for the elusive lucky ring, which can be obtained from panning. It's the last ring I needed to complete my ultimate collection, but unfortunately I did not pan up the lucky ring today, so you'll just have to stick around until the next episode of Panning with Poxio. The morning of day 223, I didn't know people can call you on the phone.
Hey pal, you just blowing from Stupid Town?
So I got quite the fright when Pierre called me. But to pass the time, I handed out some more gifts to the villagers of Pelican Town, which I did for most of the day. But it was another Saturday night, so of course I went past the quarry and keg shed to pick up all of my wine before shipping it off before bed. Goodness me, that's a lot of money. Day 224 was the final day of year 2, and it started out as any normal Sunday would. I picked my ancient fruit from the greenhouse and island farmed and dumped most of them into the kegs up at the quarry, but before heading to the keg shed I waited patiently up at the playground to get my hands on the big Geode plushie. To be honest, I'd been meaning to get this for ages, I just finally remembered to actually do it. I then dumped the rest of my ancient fruit into the kegs in my keg shed and headed to the desert to get myself some more staircases. That night I made a shrimp cocktail and kinda just stared over my farm for a while before bed. While I was sleeping, Grandpa's ghost showed up and told me about how proud he was of my progress. I had done the farm justice and became the farmer he once dreamed of becoming. He wasn't wrong though, I was doing pretty well, honestly. Day 225 was the first day of my 3rd year on the farm, and I started it off by clearing my crop fields of debris. But I won't plant anything until I get more strawberry seeds because there's really no point to plant anything else. I did some menial chores around the farm before heading to the secret forest to find a morel. I needed a couple of these for shipping, cooking and crafting, so I'll come back for more. I then went and picked a spring onion, as that was another thing I hadn't added to my shipping collection, so back on the farm I shipped both the morel and spring onion. I paid a visit to Mr. Key's walnut room and once again picked up Mr. Key's kindness quest. So over days 225, 226 and 227 I just gave out gifts all day every day. Until the end of day 227, I finally finished the quest and purchased another crafting recipe with the gems I had earned in Mr. Key's walnut room. Back on the farm, I spent the evening making more cooking recipes since I was getting heaps sent to me in the mail from gaining friendship points with everyone. And before bed, I tidied up the farm a wee bit since I had kind of neglected it for the past 3 days. Day 228 started out with organising all my food chests and moving it all to the chests in the kitchen. It was Ken's birthday today, so I waited patiently outside his room. I definitely do not have a problem doing this, okay? It's normal and it's definitely not weird at all, okay? But he eventually came out, so I handed him his present. That afternoon, I rode Clip-Clop around the Cindersnap forest on the lookout for artifact spots. But since it wasn't winter anymore, it was a lot harder to find spots if they were there, and I didn't find any. Down at the beach, I caught myself an eel for a cooking recipe I hadn't made yet, and before bed, I was filling my inventory with gifts to hand out tomorrow. It was day 229 and I did exactly that. I spent the morning running around handing all the presents out. Later on in the day I headed up to the bathhouse and fished up Abigail's necklace, which I then promptly returned to her. I then spent way too long staring out over the farm, which meant I was probably consulting the checklist and making a plan. Day 230 started out with some gift giving and doing some chores around the farm, and then I headed to the mines, which was honestly a sight for sore eyes since I hadn't been there in a while. I found out that the last mineral I needed, granite, could be found in normal geodes, and I thought I'd have a higher chance of finding one from a normal geode than I did from an omni geode. So I bashed away at rocks for a while before heading over to the quarry and keg shed to collect up all of my wine before bed. Day 231 was another Sunday, so it was back to picking ancient fruit and re-kegging them. But looking at my funds, I was looking on track to have the golden clock by the end of spring. It was also our very own Mayor Lewis's birthday today, so I ran a hot pepper over to him. Afterwards, I gave a few more gifts out to some villagers who were very close to full hearts, and I managed to get Evelyn and the wizard to full hearts. And then I was back to the mines breaking rocks and collecting geodes, which I ended up doing for the rest of the day. I heard another strange noise overnight, so on day 232 I ran around the farm to see what had caused it, and hiding behind one of my obelisks was an owl statue. So of course I had to add it to my statue collection. Over in Mr. Key's walnut room I checked what quests were up this week and... here we go. That night I hit the mine again to gather some more geodes before bed. Day 233 I gathered up all of my geodes and took them to Clint's and crossed my fingers for a piece of granite, and there it is, with this dull, grey, beautiful piece of mineral. I finally completed the minerals collection. While riding Clip-Clop around the Cindersnap forest, I stumbled across this hungry-looking bear who was after a catfish. Sadly, I didn't have any, so I'll have to come back again another day. For the rest of the day, I just handed out gifts. Day 234, I fished in the river to catch myself a catfish for the bear I found yesterday, but after I caught one, I went back to give it to him, but he wasn't there. Today was also Vincent's birthday, so I gave him one of his favorites, a bunch of grapes. Then for the rest of the afternoon, I handed out more gifts. Down at the beach, I caught another eel for another cooking recipe I hadn't made yet, and my collection was looking pretty good. I only had a few more to collect. It was day 235 and I honestly spent the whole day braving the rain and giving gifts to everyone. On Ginger Island, my sweet gemberry had finished growing, meaning my shipping collection was now complete. And I managed to finish Key's kindness quest, so off I went to Mr. Key's walnut room to purchase the last crafting recipe from his store. Day 236, I started my day off doing some chores around the farm. I rode Clip-Clop around the Cindersnap forest, still searching for artifact spots, but came up short again. However, now that it wasn't raining, I could finally give the bear that catfish he wanted, and he asked me to bring him the next food item, and the next, until I gave him his last one. To say thanks, he flew Mary Poppins style over the valley, magically cleaning it up, which honestly I probably could have done in a day with a plastic bag and gloves, but hey, each to their own. For the rest of the day, I kinda just mooched around the farm until bedtime. Day 237 was the Egg Festival. I went around the crop area with my hoe and watering can, preparing the fields for strawberries before heading into town. I bought enough seeds to fill the 2 fields and started the egg hunt. I'll be honest, I didn't get as many eggs as I had the last 2 years. I was kinda feeling off my game a little bit, but I still absolutely demolished everyone, so it doesn't even matter. Anyway, back on the farm that night, I planted all of my strawberries and headed out on Clip-Clop to gather as much wine as I could from the quarry, but I passed out just before I could get all of it. Day 238, I finished collecting all of my wine from the quarry and keg shed, harvested all of my ancient fruit, and re-kegged them all ready to go. Today was also Haley's birthday, so of course I found her by the fountain and handed her a lovely sunflower. Over in the desert, I traded my jade for more staircases, you can never have too many, and sat on Clip-Clop watching the sun set for a while. It's just so peaceful. It was day 239 and I was over in Mr. Key's walnut room to see what quests were up this week. I'm very thankful his 50 love gifts quest wasn't up this week. I think I honestly would have gone insane. So I accepted Key's hungry challenge again and headed to the Skull Cavern to make my way down. Now some of you may think this is cheating in some ways, but using staircases makes these things so much easier. I stopped off at a couple of Pepper Rex infested levels as they were the last monster slayer goal I needed, and I made it all the way down to level 100 in no time at all. After that I kept on staircasing down, collecting iridium ore when it was close, and it was on level 124 I finished the final monster slayer goal. Back in the valley and up at the Adventurers Guild, I double checked the board to make sure all of my goals were complete, and sure enough they were all done. I passed by Marlin and forgot about the item recovery service, which meant I had the option to pick one item to have sent back to me. Yeah, remember when I died all that time ago? Yeah, it's from there. So I picked to have my prismatic shard returned. I started out day 240 dealing with some chores on the farm before doing another round of gifting for the day. Honestly, I thought the money was going to be my main grind, but friendships take the cake on that one. After a day's worth of gifting, I headed back home and planned out the rest of my friendships. Mainly I was figuring out who had birthdays coming up and what villages I really had to focus on with gifting every week. I went to bed that night feeling quite overwhelmed. But day 241 was a new day with new beginnings. Just kidding, I spent it giving gifts again. You know what I should do? Turn this into a new segment I like to call Presents with Poxiel. That's right, this new segment, totally not a rip-off of Penning with Poxiel trademark, but a new and exciting adventure where I just give out presents to the people of the valley. You know what, I don't think this one's gonna stick. Maybe I'll just scrap that one. Day 242 was old mate Pam's birthday and she loves a good parsnip, so I headed to her trailer to give her one. And thank goodness it was a great luck day today because I was tired of gift giving and I needed to blow stuff up. That's right, it's a Skull Cavern run. I staircased my way down to level 100 and I started bombing. This is exactly what I needed. Anyway, by the end of the day I had quite the haul and I was feeling very at peace. Day 243, I decided to take my fishing rod up to the forge to get the master perk, which took a couple of tries to get. This was because I wanted to get the iridium Krobus statue. The master perk, combined with sea foam pudding, gets you to level 15 fishing, which gives you enough reach on your cast to get to the ocean from the sewer pipe, which is exactly what I did. And I put my iridium Krobus statue down to finish off my statue area. All that was needed now was the golden clock. After that, it had just dawned on me that I hadn't been to Grandpa's shrine to pick up my statue of perfection. A full 19 days after my third year on the farm had started, so I went and picked that up. For the rest of the day, I just mucked around the farm and gave out a few gifts. Day 244 was your boy Shane's birthday, so I gave him a birthday gift, putting him at full hearts. Then I was back at the forge. This time I wanted to enchant my hoe, and I got myself the generous perk, which gives me a chance at digging up double of what I'd usually get. But due to all of this enchanting, I was running low on cinder shards, so it was into the volcano dungeon for the afternoon. That evening I collected up all of my wine from the quarry and keg shed before calling it in for the night. It was day 245, and being a Sunday, it was ancient fruit collection day. Afterwards I went around the farm collecting up items I had been hoarding for extra cash and shipped them off along with all the wine from last night. I was so close to that golden clock I could smell it. Over in the desert I traded some more jade for staircases, as I had used most of mine from the previous Cavern expedition. And for the rest of the day I felt it best to hand out some more gifts. I did find Marnie and Lewis bickering about their relationship, but I promised to keep their secret. That night I made just over 1.6 million gold for everything I had sold, which was not too shabby if you ask me. I can safely say day 246 started out in the worst possible way. I had purchased a bouquet from Piers to ask Abigail to be my girlfriend when this happened.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Turns out you need exactly 8 hearts, and I hadn't quite got there yet. Looking for anything to help redeem my self-esteem, I picked up the Danger in the Deep quest from Mr. Key's Walnut Room and I headed to the mines. I mainly needed this quest for radioactive ore, as I needed some for crafting recipes, so as I was staircasing my way down to the bottom I stopped to mine any I could find. After I'd reached the bottom and received my key gems, I gathered some gifts ready for tomorrow and headed to bed. The next day, on day 247, I used the radioactive ore and bars to make some crafting recipes I hadn't made yet, before handing out those gifts I had with me. In the town square I helped Shane with a scene for his film. Man, I should totally be a movie star. Seeing it was a good luck day, I thought I'd spend a while playing the slot machines at the casino to win big and get myself the second to last rare crow. For you see, I needed to collect all of them to get the crafting recipe for a deluxe scarecrow. After winning big, I got my rare crow along with a top hat and some farm warp totems. Over on Ginger Island, Linus and Willie met Leo and I on the pier, and we managed to convince Leo to move over to the mainland with the rest of the villagers and start a new life, which he was very excited for. And then it was back to presents with Poxiel for the rest of the day. Day 248 was the flower dance. This year I had no choice but to attend, as at Pierre's stall I got the last rare crow I needed and the tub of flowers crafting recipe. Luckily this year Abigail accepted my offer to dance with her, and I was very relieved to say the least. Day 249 I received the deluxe scarecrow recipe in the mail, which I then made along with the tub of flowers. Also I bought myself a calendar to put next to my bed. Granted, it's useless because of the UI mod, but hey, it looks nice. Down in the Cindersnap forest I found Shane living life a little too close to the edge, and then I was off to the dig site on Ginger Island for everyone's favourite segment, Panning with Poxiel. I am never gonna find this stupid ring. Day 250 marks the halfway point, and I'm feeling pretty good about obtaining perfection by the end of these 300 days. Also, somewhere along the line, Abigail accepted my bouquet of flowers and now we're dating. I can't remember when that was, but that's a thing now. Okay, cool, let's continue. Shane paid a visit to the farm, a bit embarrassed from yesterday's events, but he said he'd do better, so good on you, Shane. Today was also Pierre's birthday, so I gave him a nice juicy rabbit's foot, which put him at max hearts. Back on the farm, I made a mini obelisk, something I hadn't crafted yet, and checked my perfection percentage, which was now at 71%. Anyway, I was popping into Pierre's to restock my fridge of cooking stuff, so I grabbed what I needed and headed home. For the rest of the night, I kinda just potted around the farm until bedtime. Leia paid me a visit on day 251 to let me know her art show was happening that afternoon. But before I could attend, I popped by Robin's to purchase a skull brazier crafting recipe, which I then crafted back on the farm. And it was also Emily's birthday today, so I dropped her off a nice emerald, which put her at max hearts. Back on the farm, I mooched around doing some chores and headed on down to the Cindersnap forest to look for artifact spots. Unfortunately, there were none to be found today. That afternoon in town, I attended Leia's art show, which was a massive hit with the rest of the villagers, and to finish the day off, I collected up all of my ancient fruit wine from the quarry and keg shed, which is easily going to put me over 10 million gold by tomorrow. Day 252 was the final day of spring, and another ancient fruit harvest, so I spent the morning picking them all and shoving them into kegs. Down at the wizard, I fulfilled my destiny as it were, and purchased myself the golden clock, dumping a casual 10 million gold to buy it. But hey, I've never had the golden clock on any of my farms before, so I was very proud. For the rest of the day, I hit the mines around level 40 to collect frozen geodes. You see, I need some marble to craft a marble brazier, one of the last crafting recipes. And do you think I kept any? Of course not. Why would I have? I woke up on day 253 ready for my hot girl summer, and with my golden clock on the farm, no debris spawned. So I spent the morning whacking down my now dead strawberries, and over at Mr. Key's walnut room I picked up the Danger in the Deep quest again. Mainly because I needed a few more gems in order to buy 3 galaxy souls. And when you combine 3 galaxy souls with a galaxy weapon, like my gavel, you'll unlock its final form, the Infinity Gavel, which is exactly what I was after. Over at Clint's I opened my frozen geodes but got super unlucky and didn't get any marble, so I popped by Pierre's, picked up a bunch of blueberry seeds and headed back to the farm to plant them all. After which I headed to the mines with my staircases and headed down to the bottom. After reaching the bottom I took off back to the walnut room and got my 3 galaxy souls along with the aquatic sanctuary, Mr. Key's hat and some of his key seasoning. Fun fact, key seasoning makes any food dish gold quality and improves the dish's perks that it gives you. Day 254 I swapped out my old fish tank with the aquatic sanctuary and now I can fit all 5 legendary fish in it. Let me just put a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and there we go. I then spent a while in the volcano dungeon collecting cinder shards. I was running a bit low, but by the late afternoon I had collected enough and headed up to the forge. I combined my 3 galaxy souls with my gavel and finally had the Infinity Gavel. Before bed I gathered up as many loved gifts as I could ready for tomorrow and then called it a night. Day 255 was the presents with Poxiel kind of day. I did find Shane, a change man who raises chickens now, so that was nice. And I played a quick game of Solarian Chronicles with Sam and Sebastian, but honestly I just gave out gifts all day. It was Jazz's birthday on day 256, so I surprised her with a fairy rose flower, which puts her at max hearts. And then I was back to handing out gifts. I told you friendships were a grind and I was not kidding. 50% of these 300 days are just gift giving. That night I did pay the dwarf a visit to stock up on bombs just in case of a good luck day. Day 257, Leo sent me one of the last cooking recipes I needed, so I made a mango sticky pudding before doing some chores around the farm. I then proceeded to spend the rest of the day in the mines at level 40 to collect more frozen geodes since I still needed a piece of marble. And yeah, that's pretty much all I did today. I took my geodes I had collected yesterday to Clint's the morning of day 258 and I finally got some marble. I even had some geodes to spare. Back on the farm I crafted the marble brazier and I was very close to having crafted everything, which is why I spent the rest of the day trying to figure out what I still had to craft. That evening I collected my wine from the quarry and keg shed before shipping it all off. Even though I've obtained the golden clock already, there's still a few things I want to get that require a lot of gold. Day 259 was another Sunday, so you know what that means. That afternoon in the desert I traded some more jade for staircases and I kinda just fluffed around the farm until bed. Day 260 was a great luck day, so I gathered my staircases and bombs and headed to the Skull Cavern. And before you all say anything, yes, I'm aware it's Gus's birthday today, but I already had full hearts with him, so I didn't have to give him a present today. Anyway, I used my staircases to get down to level 83, and then I went to town collecting minerals. By the end of the day, I had quite the haul, 438 iridium ore and 6 prismatic shards, and that wasn't a bad effort. I paid Robin a visit on day 261 to get the community upgrade. This will give Pam and Penny a house to live in rather than a trailer, and I think that's nice. Then for the rest of the day it was back to gift giving. Again, I did this all day long. Day 262 was Mara's birthday, so I gave her a gold bar and put her at max hearts. I then proceeded to stand over Sebastian as he slept, waiting to give him a gift. It turns out you can gift it to them anyway, so maybe I shouldn't have done that because he was awake. Quickly moving on, I headed to the desert to trade some Omni Geodes for some artifact troves, as I was sick of scanning the Cindersnap forest for artifact spots and I wanted that last artifact, dammit. And did I get it, you ask? Surprisingly, I actually did. I donated it to Gunther and that was the very last item I needed to complete the museum, and I got myself another star drop. And I finished the day with your favourite segment in the whole entire world, panning with Poxiel. I am never gonna find this stupid ring. I don't know why I bother really. What's the meaning of life? It's pointless if I could never find this damn ring. I just honestly can't believe I can't find it anymore. It's just so stupid. Poxiel would like to inform you all that he was unsuccessful in finding the lucky ring, and that penning with Poxiel has now been trademarked. Day 263 was the luau, so I took an iridium quality truffle to the potluck soup, and the governor lost his mind. As he should, that's a damn good soup. Day 264, Robin had finished building Pam and Penny's new house, and it looked so cute. For most of the day, I handed out more gifts to the townsfolk of Pelican Town. But in the late afternoon, I completed another key quest to hand him 4 prismatic shards because I had 4 sitting there in my chest. And I got myself some mushroom tree seeds and magic bait. Back on the farm in the bottom corner, I decided to spice up this unused corner by planting the mushroom trees and adding some pathways which will look quite nice. And the magic bait was to catch a salmon, for you see the salmon was the only thing I needed to make the last cooking dish, but it can only be caught in fall. However, with the magic bait you can catch any fish in any season, in any weather, at any time. So I was going to try my luck at catching one. It was day 265 and pouring down with rain, which was perfect. I headed down to the beach and picked up a mermaid's pendant as I was going to propose to Abigail, so I can work my way towards that final star drop, which you get from reaching 12.5 hearts with your spouse. It was also Alex's birthday today, so I handed him a nice golden pumpkin. I casually walked into Piers and popped the question to Abigail, who for once didn't reject me. I then went fishing for a salmon in the river. It did take me a while and I moved places a few times, but by late evening I finally caught one. I took it back home, made the salmon dinner and completed the cooking collection. Before bed I gathered up my bottles of wine, shipped them off and called it a night. Day 266, another Sunday, another ancient fruit harvest. Down in the sewers, I paid Krobus a visit to purchase myself the Return Scepter, which, when used, returns you home no matter where you are. A very handy tool to have, but it did set me back a cheeky 2 million gold. Over at the island farmhouse, I had brought over my 2 catalogues and decided it was time to spruce up the island farm a bit. I only got halfway through, but by the end of the night, I thought it was taking shape quite nicely. I started off day 267 with some gift giving to the villagers before heading back to the island farm in the afternoon to finish off the interior. And by bedtime it was all finished and I was quite happy with the final result. And if you want to do this yourself, you should totally check out my interior design video guide. Link in the description. Day 268 was my wedding day. With everyone gathered in the town square, Abigail and I said I do under a beautiful archway, and I was that much closer to getting that final star drop. On the farm, I fluffed around doing some chores before handing out more gifts, but I was having to give out less and less each time, meaning I was getting very close to max friendship level with every single villager. I made a few more crystallariums to place in my jade shed, and if I'm being honest, I just went to bed early today. Day 269, I walked out by the animal area to find another meteorite had fallen onto the farm. Unfortunately, you'll never replace the first one I had, so I'm sorry, my friend. You have to go. It was also Sam's birthday today, so what better way to say happy birthday than interrupting a peaceful sleep with a present? And for the rest of the day, I just mooched around the farm, not really achieving too much. Day 270, I figured out how to access the advanced crafting option, which lets you know what you've crafted and how many times you've crafted it. Now, this would have been very useful to have figured out a while ago, but hey, now's better than never, I guess. Sam showed up outside my farmhouse this morning to let me know his band was playing this afternoon, which I totally don't forget about. I definitely go along to this and I enjoy it. Yep, totally something that I do. I did some chores around the farm and then started to scroll through my crafting page to see what I had left to craft, and No. No. Oh my god. You're kidding me. Oh. Yeah. So, to craft a life elixir, you need a morale. And they only spawn in spring. It's summer. I'm past spring. I can't believe it slipped past my checklist. The checklist was supposed to be foolproof, which meant one thing. In order to obtain perfection in the next 30 days, I'd have to get super lucky with the traveling cart RNG. Honestly, I was in a bit of shock and I took off to the mushroom cave on Ginger Island just to double check I couldn't find one there. Then I stood there for a while quite sad. However, I couldn't let that get to me, so back home on the farm I crafted every other recipe I hadn't crafted yet, which left the life elixir, the last item left to craft before heading to bed, ready for a new day. Day 271 started with checking the travelling cart. No morale today though, so I went and gave Demetrius a strawberry for his birthday. I then spent the rest of the day decorating the backwoods because, you know, why not? I thought it looked quite nice by the end of the day. It was a rainy day on day 272 and I continued my exterior design journey to the bus stop, which I think Pam will appreciate when she walks to the bus each day. By late afternoon I'd finished and I was quite happy with my efforts. To finish the day off I collected my ancient fruit wine from the quarry and keg shed before shipping them off and heading to bed. The rain continued down onto day 273 and I spent the morning picking ancient fruit and shoving them into kegs. Then I did some chores around the farm before heading out to gift some presents to the villagers who were still not at full hearts. Day 274 I gave out more gifts to those I needed to and paid the dwarf a visit to hand him a birthday present. And then it was off to the dig site for your favourite panning with Poxiel. Good god, this ring is gonna haunt me in my dreams. I can hear it mocking me now. Ha 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 ha! Poxiel, you can't find me. Now you have to live with that for the rest of your life. Day 275 I decided to fill up the animal area with more grass as it was looking a little bare, and I topped up the bus stop area with more grass too. Afterwards I then spent the rest of day 275 to 277 smelting ores, specifically quartz, iron and gold. This was because I wanted to fill up my solar panel area, so yes, I actually spent 3 whole days smelting ores. But on day 278 it was Leo's birthday, so I surprised him with a nice juicy melon, which put him at full hearts, meaning everyone was at max hearts except 2 people, Penny and Elliot. However, they had birthdays in the first week of fall just as I had planned, so it was safe to say I had friendships in the bag. After checking the travelling cart, she wasn't selling a morel, I made the solar panels I had so patiently smelted ores for and placed them alongside the lake before heading to bed early. Day 279 I spent over on Ginger Island for another episode of Panning with Poxiel! But today's segment was special, as this was the final Panning with Poxiel segment of this series. And although I didn't get that stupid, irrelevant, and downright annoying lucky ring, I just wanted to say thank you for enjoying this segment that I came up with one day, which just stuck and became a loved bit by all. You will be missed so dearly. That afternoon, I finally attended Sam's concert, which I definitely didn't forget about and just kind of stumbled upon. But it went pretty well, I'd say. To finish the day off, I collected my ancient wine and headed to bed. Day 280 was the final day of summer, and I thought I'd treat myself, so what better way to do that than dropping 2 million gold on 2 statues of endless fortune to really spice up the golden clock area. Clip Clop and I then spent the day just chilling out waiting for the festival to start, which yes was at 10 PM, but hey, it was nice. I saw the summer season out by watching the moonlight jellies, and if you know anything about me, I was absolutely bopping out to this song. It's just so good. It was the first day of my favourite Stardew season on day 281. I started out my day scything down my withered blueberry plants and replacing them with cranberries. I spent the rest of the day looking for a hazelnut because it turns out I still had to craft fall seeds, and I had everything but a walnut, so Clip Clop and I scavenged the valley with no luck. But I did get a montage cutscene of Leo slowly fitting into the valley, and I think that's really adorable. Day 282 was Penny's birthday, so I gave her a lovely emerald which puts her at max hearts, meaning it was just Elliot left to go. I then scavenged the valley for any sign of a hazelnut, but still nothing, so I decided to hit the hay early. Day 283 I was back to scavenging the valley, but I still couldn't find the damn hazelnut. I didn't do much today if I'm being honest, so on to the next one. The morning of day 284 I got my final star drop from Abigail. I then decided to cut down all of the grass at the bus stop and some of the backwoods to allow more chance for a hazelnut to spawn, as I was getting none to spawn. While I waited for one though, I decided I wanted to decorate my island farm. I will admit, it was quite tough to remove the ancient fruit from my farm as they had done so well after the last 200 days or so, but it was time to say goodbye. On day 285 I headed back to the valley to give Elliot his birthday present, and that completed my friendships. I thought I'd never see this day in my life, but here we are. And then I continued to chop down my plants until they were all gone and I had an empty farm to work with. So I started work on my new farm. I was purely going for aesthetics with this farm and I really had no plan. But I trust my gut instinct and got to work planning it up by placing down some sprinklers before bed. Day 286 I finally found a hazelnut in the bus stop area, and then upon checking my foraging chest, you won't believe this, but yep, I had 10 in there already. Of course there were 10 in there, why wouldn't they be there already? I then spent the rest of day 286, day 287 and day 288 working purely on the new island farm. And I have to say, I am genuinely loving it. I think when the trees grow and all of the crops grow in, it'll look spectacular. And after going in with no plan, I was very happy with the final result. Now for days 289 to 299, I just slept. Honestly, I was feeling pretty burnt out after such a massive effort from the last 100 days, and I was ready to end this thing. On day 300, I headed up to the spa, and as tradition, I soaked in the warm water and reflected. I had achieved so much in the last 300 days, and my perfection percentage was 99%. The only item I needed to get was a morale to craft the life elixir, and if I'm being honest, I had come way too far to leave this series unfinished. It would literally be criminal to end it here without a satisfying end. So, here's the epilogue. To obtain a morale, I had to get back around to spring, so I basically went full hibernation mode and slept through winter in the first half of spring. I emerged on the 12th of spring, year 4, and headed to the secret forest where I picked up a single morale and headed back home. I crafted the life elixir, which gave me the Craftmaster achievement, meaning that I had crafted every item. I headed on over to Mr. Key's walnut room, and sure enough, my percentage was at 100%. Waking up the next day, I rode Clip-Clop to the start of the summit and decided just to walk. I was honestly feeling a bit emotional as I met up with Abigail on the summit. To think that this was my first time ever reaching perfection, and being able to share that journey along with you all watching has been a dream come true. As I watched the credits roll, I felt so much love for this game and all of you watching. Back at Mr. Key's walnut room, I picked up the statue of true perfection. I put it down next to my golden clock on my farm, and I logged out. So to answer the question, how far can I get in 300 days of Stardew Valley? Pretty far actually, perfection in fact. It has been an absolute joy to bring you this series, and I thank each and every one of you for watching along and supporting me. Speaking of support, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for making it to perfection for the first time ever, and if you do feel so inclined, make sure to join our Discord server too. It's a lot of fun and everyone's super kind, so come and hang out. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. You have made this series unforgettable for me, and everyone else watching. You are all wonderful people, so have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching.